Hello, and thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join me today. I hope that there is something within this video that is a benefit to you or to somebody that you know. Please like, subscribe, and share. You can also find us on Odyssey, Rumble, and Locals at the letter N, L, Mentors, as well as Gettr and Gab, and YouTube. Please go ahead, leave a comment down below, as it does help the algorithms on the various platforms we're on. So I wanted to give a real quick disclaimer. YouTube and episodic videos are not financial commentary in any way. Is there no way intended for financial advice to be given in recorded episodic media format. Now that we got that out of the way, I wanted to start today. You can go ahead and I also wanted to take a moment to say this is also our website, D&L Enterprises LLC, at dlmentors.com. We, of course, do tax accounting and business mentoring. Since COVID, we're able to do federal and state taxes regardless of where you are in the United States. Please feel free to give us to contact us. A picture of one of my sons and a picture of my wife. So please feel free to go ahead, contact us, and we'll be more than happy to help you with your tax problems. Get your taxes fair in order. We are also able to have limited representation of our clients. With that, let's go ahead and get started for today. It's kind of, I guess, part 2 of what really has been bothering me lately, and I'll have to agree with some of this, of getting together with a community, mastermind group, people of like-mindedness. They are going to continue to push diversity to divide us. So find those who have a common interest with you and build a community with them, a network, association with these people of like-mindedness. Because boy, things are going to get interesting. Okay, so with the advancing directive, and I'm probably going to have to add this in there, and I apologize for horrible editing, I wanted to take a moment. This was from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, Smithsonian. White privilege. Since the white people in America hold most of the political, institutional, and economic power, they receive advantages that non-white groups do not. These benefits and advantages of varying degrees are known as white privilege. For many white people, this can be hard to hear, understand, or accept, but it is true. If you are white in America, you have benefits from the color of your skin. That is some of the most racist propaganda I have ever heard. First of all, political, well, as I've spoke before, many of these people have been in politics at least 2 generations. Joe Biden, how many generations? 2? 2 generations. Institutional and economic power. I know plenty of black millionaires. White people can possess other marginalized parts of their identity, but their race is not one of these. To learn more about how race interacts with other identities, check out the section titled Systems of Oppression. It's from the federal government. Equal under God, that we're all created equal in God's image. Whether we were aware or not, this is, again, same thing, still from National Museum of African American History and Culture from the Smithsonian. Whether we are aware or not, are all assigned to multiple social identities, socialism. With each category, there is a hierarchy, a social status with dominant and non-dominant groups. As with race, dominant members can bestow benefits to other members they deem normal, or limit opportunities to members that fall into other categories. Okay, so if you're queer, are you likely to hire a straight Christian? No. People tend to be tribal. Unfortunately, the law cannot stop people from being tribal, and all this does is promote it. A person of the non-dominant group can experience oppression in the form of limitations, disadvantages, and disapproval. They may even suffer abuse from individuals, institutions, or cultural practices. Oppression refers to combination of prejudice and institutional power that creates a system that regularly and severely discriminates against some groups and benefits other groups, so that advanced equity is, as stated here, intentionally oppressive against white people in a combination of prejudice and institutional power. Because the federal government is saying, we have to be oppressive against these people and prejudice against them as well. The system of oppression. The term system of oppression helps us better identify inequity by calling attention to the historic and organizational patterns of mistreatment. Historical from whose perspective? Again, make America great again. It's an argued statement. Great versus Africa? Oh, heck yeah. Great versus some socialist utopia? Sorry, the only time I know of any type of a utopia happens to be heaven. Man cannot create it himself. Tower of Babel. In the United States, systems of oppression, like systemic racism, are woven into the very foundation of American culture, society, and laws. This is where they want to take accountability away from certain people and their actions so that they're not held accountable for their actions. It's how they were born. Other examples of systems of oppression are sexism, heterosexism, in other words, straight sex. So me having an interest in women is oppression. Ableism, classism, ageism. Okay, these are just words. Anti-Semitism. Society institutions such as government, education, and culture all contribute to reinforce the oppression of marginalized social groups while elevating dominant social groups. So because America was founded as a Christian nation, because Christianity has shaped the Western morals of civilization, because Christianity is based on a patriarchy, they're saying these things are bad, and it's read right there. Because God said, go forth and multiply. This is bad because they can't control you as easily. There is no hierarchy of oppression. They just said there was. This is why, there's a difference between, I was reading one of the documents, the executive orders, where there's a distinction between blacks and African Americans. There's a cultural view on that. There's a stigma on that as well. Inner city youth shouldn't be held accountable for their actions. That it's oppression to hold them accountable for their actions. So if we go back to what is whiteness, being white does not mean you haven't experienced hardship or oppression. Being white does mean you have not faced hardship or oppression based on the color of your skin. No, I've never ever had a black man tell me he's not going to hire me because I can get a job anywhere. Never. We need to be honest about the ways white people have benefited from racism so we can work towards an equitable, fair, and just society. How does this say equal justice for all? Procedural justice for all. In White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack, scholar Peggy McIntosh writes, white privilege is an invisible weightless knapsack of special provisions, maps, passports, code books, visas, clothes, tools, and blank checks. Here's an example she gives of what white privilege looks like in day-to-day living. I can, if I wish, arrange to be in a company of people of my race most of the time. White, black, you can do this. Anything specifically the privileged white can do. I can avoid spending time with people whom I was trained to mistrust and who have learned to mistrust my kind or me. What? If I should need to move, I can be pretty sure of renting or purchasing housing in an area which I can afford and in which I would want to live. I'm pretty sure any race can do that. I can be pretty sure that my neighbors in such a location will be neutral or pleasant to me. That's funny. I had a neighbor here. Oh boy. And he tried to get us evicted. And he was the one who used to get drunk, get high on meth, and start screaming the N-word out his window. He got in a fight with plenty of neighbors. Sorry, only white people have that privilege. Somebody's living again. Oh, but that's their lived experience. Well, that's my lived experience. So whatever. I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed. I don't know. I've watched plenty of black women clutch their purses or pearls as I've walked by. I've watched plenty of white women do it too. It doesn't really matter on the race of the woman. It's just how secure she feels walking alone. That has nothing to do with skin color. I can turn on my television, open the front page of the paper, and see people of my race. What? So it's white privilege because I open it up because the majority of people in America are white or white adjacent. Let's use their word. And that's bad. Confused. Beat TV. No, that never existed. That was a white privilege that allowed them to have an entirely black channel. And then there was what, In Living Color, where Jim Carrey was the only white dude there. Am I missing something? I guess so. When I'm told about our nation's heritage and about civilization, I am shown that people of my color made it what it is. So you're Jewish now. Bible, Jewish now. Civilization, Babylonian. That would be Middle Eastern. Genetics, sun temperature, sun position on the earth tends to dictate skin color, just like whether a person's family tends to live in the mountains versus a family who tends to live on the plains of Africa. Genetics, mutations within the human body to adapt to those conditions, because, humans are adaptable beings. Anyways, when I am told about our nation's, oh, yeah. That's right. That's that whole 1690 project in which they ignored that there were indentured servants, which were white, the Irish slaves, the word slave, Slavic people. It's not a joke. It's reality. The root word comes from slaves. Again, they've got to be the victim. They've got to present it. It's not white privilege because they're also busy pointing out how life came from Africa. Get into that one because Clovis people, big rock, go boom. This statement is nothing. It really is. We won't get here that, the pilgrims came to find religious freedom because of persecution for their religious beliefs. So they came to America to find it in which everybody could practice their religion, in theory, without being persecuted by the state. Funny how far we've changed from the ideas and concepts of not just the founding fathers, but the initial founders of what we call America. I can be sure that my children will be given curricular materials that testify to the existence of their race. Wow, that's racist. We have to teach you to see your race first before we teach you to read and write. Given circular material or curricular materials that testify to the existence of their race. I can also see you. That kind of, you exist. Oh my goodness. What the hell, gobbledygook? That's just a bunch of words. If I want to, I can be better sure of finding a publisher for this piece on white privilege. Oh yeah. I'll be lucky if this piece I'm recording now, if it is published, isn't called racist. As a matter of fact, Obama's written 17 books. Mike's written 4 or 5 bestsellers. What kind of gobbledygook is that? That's wham. I haven't done it, so what? Oh, yeah, white privilege. That's right, because it's Christian material. I can be sure of having my voice heard in a group which I am the only member of my race. What personal insecurity is this? This is a personal insecurity. If you're that insecure that you think in a group that are working with you and you speak up and no one will hear you, you're a moron. Get over yourself. I can be casual about whether or not to listen to another person's voice in a group which she is the only member of his or her race. Again, okay, this is just more of their personal racism that says that if a white person speaks up and they're the only white person in a group, they'll just ignore what they say because it's irrelevant. This is implying that I do this. I can attest, and I'm sure there are plenty of people who will attest, that when I'm in a group, I listen to everybody who speaks regardless of who they are, including the leftists. White dominant culture describes how white people and their practices, beliefs, and culture have been normalized over time and now consider standards in the United States. This is a white exclusive religion. I just want you to know, if you ain't white and you ain't Christian, get out. What the And if you can't tell sarcasm, YouTube algorithm, people from India, then I don't know what to say, because I've never been I'm at least smart enough to know Jesus wasn't white. Don't think he was dark-skinned African either. Anyways, I'll get racist describing color. As a result, all Americans have all adapted various aspects of white culture, including people of color. There's a good book that has set forth Western civilization morals, and it's been a standard for a couple thousand years. And yet, right here, we have the Smithsonian Institute saying it's white culture. Christianity is white culture. Right here. White supremacy is an ideology where white people are believed to be superior to oh my God. This is the propaganda that the government is pushing with that executive order to further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Smithsonian Institute, talking about race. White supremacy is an ideology where white people are believed to be superior to non-white people. This fallacy is rooted in the same scientific racism and pseudoscience used to justify slavery, imperialism, colonialism, and genocide at various times throughout history. Oh, please, white people are not responsible for all the evils in the world. And as far as slavery goes, again, it was black people who brought it. It was black people who did it. Not exclusive to black people. And it was stopped by white people. Christian white people who believed we are all equal in God's image. All people on this earth are equal. White supremacist ideology and their followers continue to perpetuate the myth of white racial superiority. The belief of white superiority has been part of the United States since its inception. White European imperialists who settled here believed that they were inherently superior to non-white groups, and that is a bunch of bullshit. They came here to find freedom from religious persecution. This belief justified atrocities like the genocide of Native Americans and nearly 250 years of African slavery. Oh, don't get me started on that. After slavery, white supremacist ideologies manifested into a series of laws that would limit the freedom of African Americans, known as democratic black codes and Jim Crow laws. Much like the executive order in which white people are superior to black people. As a matter of fact, according to this, white people are superior to everybody else. And everybody else needs the government's help to be equal to white, straight men. That's what it says. But then again, of course, this is how you give me money. You become, you socialist promotions. Direct and violent forms of racism that promote white supremacy have been now on the rise in recent years. Also, black supremacy. Let's not forget those. BLM, the race riots, George Floyd. These acts are more directly linked to white nationalism. White nationalism is a concept born out of white supremacy. German nationalism, Russian nationalism, Chinese nationalism. Where is American nationalism? Well, again, this is not talking about American nationalism. This is talking about the KKK. But acting like all white people are members of the KKK and are card-carrying members of the KKK. Whatever. A key difference is the focus on nationhood. White nationalists in the United States advocate for a country that is only for the white race due to feelings of entitlement and racial superiority. However, black nationalism, in which the United States is advocating for a black nation because of feelings of entitlement and racial superiority. They also believe that the diversity of people in the United States will lead to the destruction of whiteness and white culture, correlation to white supremacist ideologies. So we're mixing our definitions again. But then again, we're talking about people who say that priests can be women, men dressing as women. That's not setting an example. Racism is perpetuated by deeming whiteness as superior and other races and ethnic groups as inferior. So, by this own definition of what racism is, this executive order is racist by nature. Sorry, when people of a non dominant group, people of color, are discriminated against, targeted, or oppressed over time, they often believe the myth and misinformation about their group. Well, as internalized racism is happening when an oppressed group believes the racial views that society communicates as true, what the socialist Marxist bullshit is that? Confronting whiteness. Okay, oh my. If you identify as white, acknowledge your white racial identity and its privileges is a crucial step to helping end racism. Facing your whiteness is hard and can result in feelings of guilt, sadness, confusion, defensiveness, or fear. Dr. Robin DiAngelo coined the term white fragility to describe the feelings as a state in which even a minimal amount of racial stress becomes intolerable, triggering a range of defensive moves. Since white people live in a social environment that insulates them from racial-based stresses, whites are rarely challenged and have less of a tolerance for race-based stress. What kind of leftist BS is that? Why don't, if you replace that with rich people live in a social environment that insulates them from racial biased stresses? Not, so again, okay, so all white people are rich. Why not? Feelings associated with white fragility often derail conversations about race and serve to support white supremacy. While these feelings are natural human reactions, staying stuck in any of these hurts the process of creating an equitable society, this utopia, socialist utopia. The defensive, guilty, or denial gets in the way of addressing the racism experienced by people of color. This also takes out accountability. A person, therefore, is not accountable for their actions because their environment caused them to do it. That's exactly what this is saying. Besides your own internal reactions, process a daily commitment to anti-racist work. Try participating in affinity groups or caucuses. Groups are people sharing common interests, backgrounds, or experiencing coming together to support each other. But if you're all white, that's white supremacy. So again, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join me today. I hope that there is something within this video that's a benefit to you or to somebody that you know. Please like, subscribe, share on the various platforms. You can find us on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and Locals. D, the letter N, L, Mentors. You can also follow us on Minds and Gettr with the same D, letter N, L, Mentors. There's also links down below in the description. With that, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join me. United we stand, divided we fall. God bless you, and God bless America.